we are live, and we see the bubbles, and we can see the altcoins. And the big question is, which altcoins are recovering first? And remember what I said to you guys yesterday, it seems like it's the dumb money altcoins that are recovering first. It was altcoins like 𝗙𝗵𝗃 and a whole lot of other ones that we thought wouldn't actually recover. And then yesterday on the show, what we did was we said, okay, let's ask people whether they'd rather buy Solana or the tokens that actually recovered if they were buying them on a 2-year hold. And here are the results. When I asked people if they were going to buy NEO or Solana, they said that 81% of them said they'd rather be buying Solana. Then 𝗙𝗵𝗃, 24% said they'd buy 𝗙𝗵𝗃, and 76% said they'd rather buy Solana. And then we asked the same thing around stacks, and 73% of people said they were going to buy Solana, and only 27% said they were going to be buying stacks. Now, if that's the case, why is it that the other tokens recovered quicker? The tokens that, the meme coins, the weaker coins, why are they the ones that recovered quicker if for a long-term hold, everyone's saying that they're going to be buying the good coins? And when it comes to those good coins, now that they are securities, are they actually dead? That's what we're going to be talking about today. I've got Raoul Pal here. I've got a lot of questions for him. I want to know about why people are buying this. I want to know if he's holding any of these so-called securities, and if he is he actually going to hold them or sell them? I want to know if he thinks that Bitcoin is actually going to break 30,000 this time, and then we're going to go into this full bull territory. I want to know what he thinks about the BlackRock ETF and whether he agrees with us that this is a big move for crypto, and whether he believes that BlackRock will actually get it. So it's Friday. We're here. We're going to have a big banter. If you're new to the channel, this is a great time to subscribe to our channel. We are the fastest growing major channel out there today. And if you are a regular, like this content, and let's get this show on the road. All right, and we're back. And when I say we're back, it's us and Bitcoin. Not very much the altcoins, but we are back. We are back. 30,100, and we're back here bringing you another one of our Friday Banters. Remember, with all our Friday Banters, these are brought to you by NordVPN. They are our partner when it comes to these amazing Friday Banters. If you don't already have a VPN, and if you're not already protecting your IP address, and it's super important these days that you protect your IP address, because if you're not protecting your IP address, everyone knows, all the centralized exchanges, all the DeFi applications, everyone knows where you are broadcasting from, or where you are surfing from, or where you are operating from. And then it's just not a great place to be. You're not anonymous if you're not using a VPN. You can get a VPN for under $3 or under $4 a month, $3.35 a month. If you want to get a VPN and you want to support our sponsors. If you've already got a VPN, they also have another product called 𝗙𝗏𝗏. Now, what 𝗙𝗏𝗏 does, this is a product that I need, okay? So this is a product that I need to use, because I always get these irritating people contacting me on databases that I never, ever applied for. So that's what this product does. It protects you from those databases. They have a whole process to remove you from all these spam databases where your data has been stolen or sold in the dark web or sold without your permission. You can get this 𝗙𝗏𝗏 product for, I think it's like under $6 a month. And here we go, it's $6.49 a month. So if you've already got a VPN, support our sponsors and get 𝗙𝗏𝗏. It is one of the best products out there. It does protect you against all these spam calls and whatever else. And they, of course, do support our channel, and they are the crypto VPN and our crypto partners. All right. Let's get to the meat and potatoes of the show. And today, it's a Friday. We've got Raoul Pal with us. I've got a lot to speak to him about. As I said to you, let's get Raoul into the studio. Raoul, welcome, my friend.
Good to see you, my friend.
Are you in Big Cayman or Small Cayman?
I'm in Big Cayman, in my house in Big Cayman.
Oh, awesome. Listen, good to see you, my friend. I've got so much to talk to you about. I think a good place to start this is to talk about these tokens. In fact, I want to actually start this with an exercise that I did yesterday on Twitter. And what bothered me was we spend a lot of time researching what we think are the best altcoins on the market. We look at the fundamentals, we look at the usage, we look at the network effects, we look at everything else. And hopefully we then invest in these tokens. But then when the market bounces after a massive dip like the one that we had, the tokens that performed the best were the meme coins. 𝗙𝗵𝗃 went up 80%. Stacks went up 70%. NEO, a blockchain that I haven't heard about since 2017 or 2018, recovered 50%. And Solana, which I think is a very good token, didn't even recover. I mean, hardly even recovered. So then I went onto Twitter and I did a little poll and I said, look, if you were buying these for a 2-year hold, and no selling is allowed, what would you rather buy? Solana or Stacks, Solana or 𝗵𝗵𝗄, or Solana or NEO? And everyone said, over 70 or 80% of people said Solana, they'd buy Solana. How do you explain that with all of the sentiment and everyone thinking that Solana is a better token, all these meme coins actually recover quicker? What am I missing here?
I'm not sure. The vagaries of the market. I think a lot of it is that Solana is more of an investment. It's a larger cap token. It takes more to move it. And it's less driven by crazy punters who are the degens who are looking for the next, thing that goes up 50% in a couple of days. So I just think it's a different bunch of participants, really. Because I think I answered your survey as well, and I answered Solana. And I'm long Solana. And I think really the bigger tokens are going to be driven by money coming into the space overall. And then we had the regulatory issues where, people are concerned. What does it mean? Solana and some of the others still have overhangs from FTX days and other stuff, while stuff like NEO doesn't have it. So it's part of that. And a lot of the time I just tell people it's all noise. So, I think you drive yourself crazy looking for the next big thing when in front of your eyes, over time, if I look at my screen, Bitcoin's up 82% this year, ETH's up 57%, and Solana's up 70%. I mean, that's pretty decent.
Yeah, that is a decent return, but I don't know, I get a little bit demotivated when I spend my whole day researching what I think are the best tokens out there, and I use the models and I use all the fundamentals and all the good foundations, and then the tokens that run are the dumb money. Fred came into the office 2 days ago and he said, I'm following the dumb money.
You haven't got the investors. So what you're doing is proper analysis. That needs kind of fresh capital into the space. What we've got is actually churning, people flipping out of NFTs into 𝗵𝗵𝗄, that kind of stuff. But what you're doing is saying, well, if new capital comes into the space, they're going to look for these fundamental proper opportunities. We're just not seeing new capital yet.
What do you think? What is the thesis for new capital coming into the space? Is there light at the end of the tunnel when it comes to new capital coming out there? I mean, you've had Operation Choke Point. You've got Gary Gensler going crazy against all of the tokens and all of the providers and Binance and Coinbase. What's your thesis for new capital actually flowing in here?
So my thesis has been always based on the liquidity cycle and macro. And the liquidity cycle for me bottomed in June last year, which is when ETH bottomed. And then the confirmations came from other liquidity cycles that I used that bottomed in October, November. So I think liquidity rises from now on. And people just want a little bit more macro certainty. The Fed, we're stopping. No, we're not stopping. We're kind of stopping. Maybe we're not. Doesn't help people. But I think capital is soon to come. I think the BlackRock ETF is another way of bringing fresh capital into the space. And so that's the real issue, is just it's a dead market right now. And it's just us lot moving money around. And until you bring in new people. Now, I have a different view on the US regulations. I kind of don't care. You're in South Africa. I'm in the Cayman Islands. It makes no difference to us. I mean, zero.
Well, it does make a difference. It does make a difference because the US is one of the biggest markets or the biggest potential markets for crypto buying, crypto trading, crypto building. And if they're out, it sends a clear message to the rest of the world. Well, we're not getting their liquidity and their money into crypto, which we're already starting to feel. There's a lot less liquidity as a result of the fact that the US is kind of out. And it's just not a great environment. It's not a great look for crypto.
Yeah, it's not a great look, but having been in this since 2013, I've gone through this so many times, and everybody feels miserable. I can't believe people still feel miserable now, and the space is up 80% this year, and everyone's still like, "Oh, it's the end of the world. Nobody loves us. Everybody hates us. Everybody on crypto Twitter's turning on each other, trying to destroy each other." I mean, it's madness, and it's actually boredom that does it while waiting for the cycle to turn. The US stuff, I just think it's noise over time. There will be a regulatory outcome. And I talked about this, I think about maybe a year and a half ago on your show, is these professional negotiators like Gensler. Gensler has the political side, but he's also a negotiator here for where this space is going to get regulated. He's going to start with no, I hate you all. And we're all going to go, we want total freedom to do anything we want. And the answer will be somewhere in the middle. And it depends which side of the middle we go.
But hold on. So he's come out and declared Solana, Cardano, Coty, and many other of our favorite tokens securities. Up until the point that he's proven otherwise, for people in the US, and I say this because exchanges are now following this and saying, look, we're delisting these tokens because we just don't want to get into a spat with the SEC. This is not our fight to fight. But up until that is changed, and that could be 5 years from now, I mean, at least 5 years from now, if you look at any type of precedent, for anyone in the US, those are actually securities. I mean, does that not kill Solana in the US, Cardano in the US, any kind of other proof of stake in the United States?
Last time I checked, Tesla was a security.
Yeah, but you can't use, but the difference is that you don't need to use Tesla to power a network. You need to use Solana to pay fees on a network. Now, it's not practical for anyone in the US to use, if it's a security, it's not practical for anyone in the US.
Have Coinbase delisted it?
Coinbase haven't delisted it, but Coinbase haven't delisted it very, very, very specifically. Why? Because what Coinbase are saying is, we're going to take on this fight. We have no choice but to take on this fight. But everybody else, Robinhood, eToro, all the other guys, basically delisted it. And
what percentage of the US volume is Coinbase? 70%?
Probably the majority. Yeah, probably the majority. So you believe
so there's that as well, right?
Okay, so how do you see the Coinbase fight playing out? I mean, first of all, do you think that it goes to court? Do you think they get their day in court, or do you think they resolve this before court?
My guess is Congress resolves this first. It's becoming a political issue, and Gensler is under pressure. I think that's why he's approved the BlackRock ETF. We assume he's approved it, which is why everybody's filing, because he's going to say, well, look, Bitcoin, I'm going to throw them a bone and I'm going to give them a Bitcoin ETF and that'll shut them up, because he's under a lot of political pressure now. And so I don't think they want the massive political pressure going into the election. So that's what I think is going on. And I think Congress are going to try and force some sort of ruling. If not, we've got Brad Garlinghouse's case for Ripple that still has to go through. I think there's a decent chance that they will get some more positive outcome. And Coinbase are going to go to, if Congress doesn't change anything, they're going to fight to the bitter end. So that means if you're right and it's a 5-year thing, well, Coinbase are going to list Solana for 5 years. Or these other tokens.
Let me ask you another question. One of the theses that I had and I shared with my community this week is I said, look, if you're scared of playing altcoins, but you want exposure to altcoins, for me, probably the best altcoin to be exposed to is Coinbase. And the reason why I say that is because Coinbase is a proxy for the crypto market, and specifically the crypto market in the United States. It's got a $13 billion market cap right now. If there's any player that's actually going to win this, it is Coinbase, because they have $5 billion in cash. They're quite well capitalized. And instead of picking the altcoins, instead of worrying about which ones are securities and not securities, just buy Coinbase. You got yourself a proxy for every single altcoin that will ever trade in the United States, and possibly beyond. Have you ever considered or looked at buying Coinbase, adding it to your portfolio?
Yeah, no, I've got it as part of a basket already. So I completely agree with that thesis. You always want to own the gatekeepers, where people have to pay a toll to access. So the exchanges are always a good bet. So it makes total sense to me. And it's Coinbase is not expensive. I know there's quite a few bears out there who don't like it, think it's going to go bust, blah, blah, blah. The 𝗙𝗿𝗄𝗍 of this world.
Yeah, we know.
But I think it's a decent thesis.
What do you think of Binance? I mean, would you buy Binance now? Would you buy the BNB token?
It's not one for me. I don't, there's too much opaqueness around it. It's just not one for me. I think I like Coinbase. The people there, I know the Coinbase people very well. They're super high quality. They've built a great business, got a great institutional business. Even the BlackRock ETF, surprise, surprise, who's the custodian? Coinbase. It's a high quality operation. So I think if anybody survives this, it's them. And if anybody flourishes on the other side of this, it's them. Because almost everybody else, all the small exchanges, are being forced out of the US because they don't want to deal with the regulation.
Exactly. They don't have enough money to deal with the regulation. So they're not really a part of it. Also, if you think about Coinbase's approach, it's been slow and steady. Always They haven't gone after fast profits. They've always gone after making sure that they could be as close to what they thought was the law as possible. Binance took the other approach. They went fast, they broke things, and I think they said, look, we'll deal with the implications later, whatever the implications are. I kind of get the feeling that that's what happened. And now what you're getting is you're getting Binance being challenged in places like France, the UK, Netherlands. They closed down in Netherlands. They're out of Canada. They're out of Australia. And you got Coinbase actually going into Canada. You got Coinbase applying for all these licenses now. So to me, it's almost like right now, Binance, too many headwinds for me. I thought the token was fully priced. I dumped all my Binance. I bought Coinbase. I did it publicly on my show. And I kind of did a very public switch saying, I think that Coinbase is the one that I want to be backing going forward. Binance was cool, but when the time to break things happened, I was in Binance. But now I think the time is to do things slow and steady with the law. And I think for me, that's very much a Coinbase thing.
Yeah, also I think the world is going to polarize, that the Western world, the predominant player will be Coinbase.
Yeah.
And in Asia, Latin America, the predominant one will be Binance, and maybe Africa as well. So I think the world's going to split because, Coinbase is the largest entity in the West to do this, and Binance is the largest entity in the East. It kind of makes sense.
Let's talk about a little bit about the ETF. As you mentioned correctly, that BlackRock partnered up with Coinbase as their partner exchange, also their partner custodian. BlackRock 575 approvals, 1 denial. SEC 30, 31, 32, 33 denials of a Bitcoin spot ETF. Obviously 0 approvals. I get the feeling that BlackRock were very, very calculated. I don't think that BlackRock would have applied for an ETF that they thought that they could possibly lose. I also get the feeling that Larry Fink in the pecking order is a little bit higher than Gary Gensler. I just feel like like there are ranks. There got to be ranks. I just feel that Gary Gensler is maybe a Larry Fink pawn at best. How do you see it? I mean, do you feel the same way? Do you think it was a strategic move by BlackRock?
I think it was a strategic move by Gensler. I think he, as I said, is under political pressure, and he needs to throw a bone to Congress and everybody else to say, I'm not just being objectionable. I am going to allow innovation, but only Bitcoin and only with a massive financial institution. So he's throwing Wall Street a bone, which is this point you're raising about where Larry Fink is in the pecking order. He's throwing Wall Street a bone, and he's politically trying to cover his arse. So, yes, I think there's been a secret nod, which is, Larry, if you want to do this, we'd support it. And I'm guessing that a few others have been given the nod, and it's very difficult then not to allow the other Bitcoin ETFs. So net, it's a positive thing.
Yeah, I mean, so we've got 5 ETFs. We've got BlackRock, Fidelity, Invesco, WisdomTree, and Valkyrie. What we saw is that BlackRock is a new filing, Valkyrie is a new filing, but the rest were just resubmissions of old filings, which kind of means, these old filings, usually the SEC says to them, please withdraw your application so we don't have to deny it. Now they refiled it because they don't want, they don't want to be left behind. Question. There has been all this hype on Twitter about what the GLD ETF did to the gold price, and how, when GLD launched, that was the beginning of an insane run. And a lot of people are saying that because BlackRock have such great distribution and such great incentive structures for people, for their base to sell their products, that this is going to do the same thing, or could possibly do the same thing for crypto. Now, why I'm asking this is because it's very easy for us to get caught up in this crypto bros, crypto Twitter narrative. We're going to get an ETF, we're going to get all this institutional money. Do you really think that this ETF opens up the big flow into Bitcoin, or is this just another one of these, crypto Twitter just blows a narrative completely out of proportion?
I'm just pulling up the chart of DXY. I think the reason gold did so well, yes, it did. The reason gold did so well back in when that ETF was launched was the dollar was collapsing. Okay, gold is kind of inverse of the dollar. So yes, therefore the market will obviously invest in a product like that. So it's really a matter of price. institutions, RAAs, investment advisors won't buy it if the price is not good. It's not like, oh my God, we can now buy Bitcoin. But if the price is going up like it is now, yes, it'll bring much more capital into the space. So all of these guys are sheep. Pretty much everybody in the financial markets are sheep. They're all momentum traders. So if we've got momentum, if the dollar is weakening a bit, and if the BlackRock ETF then comes out, yeah, that's going to attract a lot of capital. If it was 3 months ago and they launched it, it would have attracted nothing. Because, you've seen that with GBTC. The discount is a function of the lack of flows coming into that. And it's just been widening and widening and widening because there's no flow coming into it.
So, the GBTC's got 2% management fees per year. Also, you can buy the shares on the open market. You can't redeem the shares for the actual Bitcoin. Do you think that an ETF is really that different in the eyes of an institution? Or do you think that an institution said, look, if I wanted exposure to Bitcoin, I could have bought GBTC. I probably couldn't have bought Bitcoin because we haven't approved custodians in our process flows and stuff like that. But I have approved, you have got GBTC, which is approved. Do you think they see the two as equal, or do you think that an ETF would open up a whole new bunch of capital coming in?
Well, as long as the ETF doesn't trade like a closed-end fund, you're okay, because it's the discounts and premiums to NAV that's the real problem for people. And also, an ETF, for most people, is more like an equity, while GBTC is more like a fund.
Okay.
So they just want to see whatever it is on their screen, trade it as a normal stock. People are lazy. People just generally are lazy, and people will generally follow momentum. So if you make it easy and momentum's rising, it's going to work without question. And BlackRock have the Aladdin system, which is, their kind of major system for all of the products and everything else. That is used by a lot of RAAs, a lot of capital allocators. So once you've got the product on that, okay, that's pretty useful for people as well. So we will see, it's just the access that I can do it via BlackRock. It means it's sanctioned by the state and everything's okay. That takes a lot of uncertainty out of Bitcoin, right?
Do you think that, if you could have picked your fighter, if you could have picked your best soldier to do the task, and we were to ask you a year ago, who do you think, which entity would you like to win the first Bitcoin ETF? Do you agree with me that we couldn't have picked a better winner than BlackRock? From a distribution point of view, from an access to funds point of view, from a credibility point of view, I just can't imagine a better scenario. Surely it's better than getting...
Yeah, if you take your emotions out of what you want the space to be, and you want the new up-and-coming people, Bitwise, because I like Hunter and stuff like that. But you're right. If I want the space to attract capital and get larger global recognition, BlackRock is exactly the right person to do it.
What's the counter? What's the counter argument? What's the part that we say take your emotions out? Where did the emotions come in?
Well, the emotions come in that BlackRock is at the epicenter of the global financial system. It's like Goldman Sachs launching an ETF on Bitcoin, and people want to wrestle this away from the existing incumbents, and I think rightly so. The whole reason for this space is to create a parallel financial system, and what they're trying to do is bring it in just as a regular asset into the system. And I can understand why, at an emotional level, I don't really like BlackRock doing this, but for a bags level and for an adoption level of the space overall, yes, it helps.
But I don't understand
the narrative of changing the system. This is not changing the system.
But why? If you want, the way I see it is, if BlackRock want to bring in their money and buy Bitcoin and store Bitcoin centrally, because that's what they do with all their stuff, great. If I want to own Bitcoin and store the keys myself, also great. I see a lot of people on Twitter with the same opinion as you, we don't want BlackRock here. We don't want BlackRock to buy our bags. I don't really care who buys my bags. In fact, the more money they have, the better.
I didn't say that. I said emotionally, I would love to see it differently.
Yeah.
But I think it's exactly the right answer as BlackRock. So I'm with you.
Yeah.
I don't really want everything to be custodied at a centralized level in a global financial institution. But I'm willing to accept that for the extra adoption, because the space will figure it out over time. More people will self-custody stuff. More people will do other things, build on top of the network. So no, I think it's great news.
Yeah, I must say, the more I think about it, the more I'm happy that it's BlackRock. I want BlackRock to be the first. I think it brings the most credibility into our space. And you can say, well, there is a Bitcoin ETF. What do you think about an ETH ETF? Do you think, how far away do you think we are from an ETH ETF?
Right now, fucking miles away. Although I do think there's probably a lot of institutional interest in ETH. And I've talked about this before, because of the yielding properties of it, and because the narrative is not so much about here's a new global money, we're going to fight the system. It's like, here's a technology, you can use it. So that's much easier for most investment committees at institutional level to agree with, and to have an asset, a long duration asset that has a 5% yield. People like that. But I don't think that the US is even close to allowing ETH yet. And, you know, knowing how these people work is, even if they did, they wouldn't give you the yield. So BlackRock would take the yield from you and you just get the price appreciation. It becomes a very attractive product for them to do something like that, because they get kind of implied 5%. It's what they do with stock borrow in other ETFs.
Having said that, I remember the last time that I asked you whether, if you had $10,000, if you'd put into Bitcoin, if you'd put into ETH, at the time you said to me you were backing ETH. Your ETH was your preferred soldier for the hold. Now I'm asking you the same question this time around. The regulatory environment has changed. Bitcoin is on a tear. If I were to give you the same question now and say to you, you can only back one horse. You can't back both horses. Your holding period's 2 years. Are you backing Bitcoin or are you backing ETH?
Same answer. I'm a very long-term time horizon guy. I don't change stuff around. And my thesis is, when I look at the monthly chart on a log scale of the Bitcoin ETH Bitcoin cross, it's a big wedge pattern. I know what drives the ETH Bitcoin cross. It's driven by the business cycle and where you are in the liquidity cycle. We're at the turning point where we should start to see, over the next coming couple of months, ETH starting to massively outperform. It's, you know, I've written about this in several of my Global Macro Investor and Real Vision Pro Macro articles. And so it's just a matter of time to me. Now, how this works, Ran, is pretty straightforward. Let's say BlackRock ETF. Money comes into the space, money gets recycled, it flows into other stuff. These things have a smaller market cap and they're less liquid. So the alts do that. It's the same that happens in emerging market stocks, credit, junk bonds. It's always the same. So as you move out of US Treasuries into bonds, into emerging market bonds, the least liquid ones rally the most. So that's what I think happens.
What do you think the time frame is for ETH to start outperforming Bitcoin? I mean, right now, arguably, you could say, right now, the best bet for the short term is Bitcoin, right? Certainly for the next 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, a month, 2 months, it just feels like Bitcoin's got much more momentum. Or am I wrong?
Yes, it does. And let me just pull up my chart on this, one sec.
It's a pity I can't share your screen today because of this new system. But if you tell me which chart you're looking at, I can also call it up.
Well, no, I'm using the DMARC just to have a look at the ETH Bitcoin cross and see where we are on the weekly, because it'll give us a rough idea of when we get to the bottom. Yeah, it's still got a while to go. So I think you're probably right. Another few months before we start to see the pattern base out and this revert. That's my best guess. And again, I'm so long term, I don't really care, because I'm like,
I know you're not a trader.
Over time.
I know you're not a trader. I know you're not a trader. You're a much more long-term macro investor. But if you were a trader, would you go into Bitcoin now and then kind of wait for a little bit more of a run and then just watch the charts and then maybe switch into ETH, or is it just not worth the additional return?
I don't. Yeah, I mean, it's probably there's been a bit of return. I mean, there's been 20% difference over the course of this year. So 20% is a reasonable amount. Does that trend continue ad infinitum? I don't know. You know, is there another 20% in it? Probably not. So if you want to move around some tokens, for a 10% gain, go for it. But I just find, once you've just had a God candle like this week where it's up 20%, it's like the 10% extra. It's just a lot of hassle for a limited gain. Just the space itself as well.
You see,
yeah, that's the chart. So if you zoom out again,
okay,
and then join.
I've got it. Let me just reset.
Yeah, it's basically a big wedge pattern.
So that one you're talking about.
So it's not only that wedge.
You're talking about this wedge
from the highs in 2017-18.
So it's from there. That kind of.
It's kind of it's like somewhere around here. It's on my trading view. I think I've got different prices. I'm not sure which is the source, but it's different. But it's that.
I can't see it.
If you take out, put it on a line chart and get rid of those spikes. So get rid of the candles. Okay. Get rid of the open, high, low, close, or the candles.
Okay. So put it onto a line chart and there we go. How's that?
Okay. That's basically your wedge.
Yes. So you're waiting for the break of that wedge.
Okay,
I'm with you. Yeah, there's not much time left for this to make a decision, right?
No, it depends where you draw the bottom, because if you were to draw that 2016 low, you actually get a slightly lower part of the wedge.
So you're saying that would be...
No, up from there. Up from there.
Okay, so you're going to this one.
Yeah. And then, yeah.
Okay, I'd have to draw this a little bit more scientifically, but I think I get the point here. So that's ETH. I want to ask you.
So that's a compression, right?
Yes.
So regardless of the perfect wedge or not perfect wedge, that's a compression of a range. The moves that we've seen are small, right? That correction in the ETH Bitcoin cross has been small. Generally speaking, if you were to get a measured move from this, I mean, it kind of suggests that ETH does 2 or 3x Bitcoin in the next cycle, which also kind of makes sense. So really, it's about when you hit the kind of crypto summer zone, ETH will outperform, it'll break the wedge, and then we'll see a much larger narrative around it.
I must be honest, I'm feeling really uncomfortable buying altcoins now, and specifically like buying the altcoins that I think are the best. And I use Solana as an example. Like, I think Solana, I try and disprove my theory. I keep saying to myself, if I want a fast layer one with low fees, with high latency, where everything settles on chain, where do I go? I keep coming back to the same place. I keep coming back to Solana from a user point of view, from a network effect point of view. I mean, even just before the show, just because I knew we were going to speak about it, I started looking at all the different chains and I put them against one another, and I looked at Solana. And despite all of this, let me just put Solana against Polygon. I'm going to put it against ETH. I'm going to add BNB changes for shits and giggles. And you can see that, I mean, on most axes, Solana is on the top, etc., etc. But despite that, it feels super uncomfortable to be buying Solana now because of all the it could be a security. There is the $1 billion FTX overhang and whatever else. But I also know that every time that I've felt uncomfortable to make a decision, and I've made that decision, it's been the best decision that I've made. Last week, when it felt very, very, very uncomfortable to buy Bitcoin at 25.5, I landed up buying Bitcoin. The community know about it, and we did very, very well out of that trade. Do you think that this is the same trade on a macro level? Like, do you think that the Solana trade is peak fear now?
Yes. And so I bought Solana into the chaos of last year, both in June and then the FTX, the end of the year. And I think it's the same thing now, is like, if it gets another leg lower, it's a gift because of the points that you raise, is that the network activity is very good. There's a lot of activity going on. There's a lot of people doing stuff. So that's the idea for me is like, if we get better prices, I love it. I missed that last dip that we had, a couple of weeks ago. That was a shame because that was a gift when it went back down to 12.5, 13.
I mean, I agree with you, but I also think that, if you think Solana is going to 200 or 300, or it's becoming a proper network, whether you bought it at, it's the same way as I view my Bitcoin. I remember deciding whether I should pay 590 or 700, and 700 was very, very, very expensive, and 590 was where I wanted to pay, and it never got back to $590. Today it doesn't really matter. At like $30,000, it doesn't really matter whether you bought it at 590, 600, 620. So I just think if your long-term thesis is that this thing is going to be the prominent fast layer one, what's the difference? Buy it at 12, buy it at 13, buy it at 15. It's not the end of it.
It's all ego at that point. It's like, oh, I caught the lows. There's nothing, you're dead right? Anything,
Yeah.
if we're right and Solana does what ETH did in 2018 onwards, it's 45x. So does it matter if you make a 30x? No.
So
obviously it does compound quite a lot from cheaper prices, but no, it doesn't make a difference. So it's just ego of like, yeah, I caught the low and I'm brave enough to ignore the FUD and take the opposite view.
So tell me, what else are you looking at when it comes to altcoins? I know that you've always been a Bitcoin, and then you went into ETH, and then I think you went into Sol, and then there was a period where you were analyzing sentiment. I remember you used to send those tweets out to analyze sentiment, to see where the communities were moving and where the masses were moving. What else are you getting into? What else are you thinking may be a good buy at the moment?
So my general view on this is I have no edge when it goes to smaller stuff. I just don't have an edge. I just don't have the ability to focus on it. I set up an asset management firm, Exponential Age Asset Management, to deal with this, because that's a fund of hedge funds, and we invest in digital asset hedge funds because those guys spend all day, 24 hours a day, staring at the screens, looking at what the opportunities are. And it's better to give it to somebody who knows what they're doing than somebody like me who doesn't know what it's doing when you're going further out the risk curve. I just don't know. So it becomes a crapshoot for me because I'm just not as focused, for example, as you are in the space where where I'm really looking at those kind of opportunities because I'm a more macro guy.
I mean, I think it's great that you have the courage to say that. I mean, it's great to hear that you just say, look, I'm a Bitcoin ETH. I can go down to Sol, but that's where I stop, and then I ride the macro.
Yeah, I've got some stuff. I've got some leftover stuff. I've got a bit of Matic. I've got a bit of I've got some stuff, but it's not meaningful positions. It's really just to keep it on my radar screen. But I just don't have an edge, so I'm not that guy.
So you're playing the index. I mean, I guess you could say you're playing the crypto index. By playing Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Solana, you're pretty much playing the index. Solana's maybe a little bit of
I'm still 85% ETH. 10%. It's like maybe 80% ETH. The rest really Solana and a small amount of Bitcoin. I don't own much Bitcoin.
So I want to go into something different. You keep talking about the Fed and you keep talking about the macro cycle. And you keep telling me that you base your analysis and your theory about global liquidity and the macro cycle. Let's start with the first thing. So Powell didn't raise rates for the first time in, I think, 11 meetings. It was the first time that they never raised rates. I think it was 11 meetings, if I may be wrong. He did hedge his bets and say that we all expect there to be rate hikes. In fact, if I remember correctly, they spoke about the dot plot, and the dot plot was what shocked the market because people were talking about the dots being much higher on the dot plot and a much higher terminal rate. What do you think about where Powell is with interest rates? Do you think we're done, or do you think we've really just taken a break and it's back to business again in July's meeting?
I think we're done, but we need some proof of it being done. We need unemployment to keep rising, which it's doing. It always lags the cycle. If you look at inflation, we look at everybody looks at the Truflation numbers, and they're at 2.34% this morning, I think. So inflation is over. Core inflation always lags. So I don't know what battle they're fighting here. So I think the highest probability is that they're done.
So if you remember
last time they would.
What happened at the Fed? What happened at the Fed at the meeting when all the Fed officials actually went higher up the risk curve? What do you think happened? If you think they're done, I think they're done. Truflation are saying that the inflation numbers are 2.38. What do you think happened that made them all increase their year-end dot plots?
I think it's about expectations management. they really don't want people. There's a big narrative right now saying as soon as the Fed stop, inflation's going to go up, right? That's the most pervasive narrative in financial markets. I don't believe that narrative, but their job is to manage inflation expectations. So they want to do this hawkish, and they've done this before, the kind of hawkish pivot, which we're going to pause, but we're going to come back and beat you over the head if you dare think inflation's going to go up and try and price it. Now, that's not uncommon. 𝗙𝗵𝗲𝗆 wrote about this recently. That's a pretty standard way that the Fed operate. 2019, 18, when they paused in December, similar kind of narrative. It's like, we're watching you guys, we'll come back and beat you over the head. But every single time the Fed have paused, the next move has been a cut. 100% of the time. So
you think the market is? You think the market is absolutely wrong here? Do you think like when the market says one more rate? Okay, hold on. Now the market's repricing at one more rate hike.
Yeah, I think for that, that odds will move around what economic data we get. So I don't know what did we get the.
We haven't got CPI yet. We haven't got CPI yet.
No, but look at the global manufacturing PMI that just came out. It's at 46.3, which is full recession territory. So, if the ISM, my view is the ISM, which is about the same level, 46 point something, I think it'll end up being somewhere in the low 40s. That's a good enough signal there's ever been that the Fed need to stop. All of my forward-looking indicators show inflation is imploding. All of them show that unemployment's about to rise. All of them show that rents are going to come down. All of them show that wages are going to come down. I don't see what everybody's talking about. People are just pulling up a chart of the 1970s and saying, oh, that inflation's going to come back differently, because they're trying to impose a narrative.
But, I hear you. The market saying, and Powell also said that, we're probably going to increase rates. Not only that, we're going to hold rates steady for a long time. He actually used, in one of the interviews, he actually used the terminology like for a couple of years or something like that before we actually bring it down. What forces them to bring it down?
It's always the same thing. They've got two mandates, inflation and unemployment. So as inflation comes down, they'll be itchy triggered. And when unemployment rises, they'll be panicking. It's always the same. And I've been in this business 32 years and it has never been different.
Okay.
So they just lag.
I'm watching the unemployment numbers, and the unemployment numbers are going down, but they're going down really slowly. Do you think AI makes a big difference here? Do you think all of a sudden we get this cliff of unemployment because AI technology has come into itself, and you now have call center agents no longer required? You have copywriters no longer required. You have designers no longer required because AI is doing all of this. Or do you think that we're not going to feel the AI in the real numbers?
I think we'll feel the AI in the upcycle afterwards. I think unemployment will be stickier than people imagine. So employment growth won't come back as fast. So usually out of a recession, you kind of see unemployment rise and then comes back down again. We'll probably see that slower because of this job destruction by AI, that it's harder to get. And then we'll probably see new business formation picking up as people try and figure out how do I get employed, that kind of stuff. Because you can't go and work in an Amazon warehouse anymore either, because they're employing robots.
Yeah, soon there's going to be an AI doing the show, and I bet you the AI is going to be doing the show way better than I do the show. In fact, I actually want to show you something really cool. Hold on, I actually want to show you something which, I don't know, maybe you can do the same thing and it'll change your business like I think it's going to change our business. I have to show you this because I think it's super cool. So we tested an AI in Spanish with my voice. Just, I don't know if you can, James, can we play this?
30,000 con 200. Y lo que es aún más sorprendente es que si usted piensa de nuevo hace 2 semanas que tenía los nombres más grandes en la inversión y los nombres más grandes en cripto diciéndonos que potencialmente es hora de salir de cripto. De hecho, incluso uno de los mayores VCs en Silicon Valley, Jason Calacanis, dijo, si estás en cripto, pivota.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. Now, we've just to be clear here, we've piloted this in Arabic because my gran grew up speaking Arabic, so I had to do something for in Arabic. We can launch an Arabic channel like this. We've piloted it in Korean. You should see me speaking Korean. I mean, it's unbelievable. I'm so good at Korean. It's actually unbelievable. And that costs us less than $1 a minute to produce. I mean,
I know.
It's
so we're at Real Vision. We're just building out an entire new platform experience that's going to launch over this summer. A lot of it is the experimentation of what we're doing with AI.
So wait,
we're
that's
partnering with
actually
a bunch of people.
That is something that I want to talk to you about. So I know there's big things happening at Real Vision. And when you come on here, we always talk about the macro, we always talk about the tokens, we always talk about everything else. And I forget to ask how my friend Raoul's doing in his business and what you guys are actually doing in your business. And usually we save that for a call afterwards. But I mean, now that we're here and you've brought it up and everyone's here, maybe just tell us what's going on.
What we've been working on for 3 years and really building for the last year or so, we've rebuilt our entire tech stack. And are creating a platform for community knowledge and all of the tools that you need. So I don't want to give too much away of it, but AI is a big part of it. You know, it's also fully Web3 integrated as well. It'll roll out over time. There's a lot of work that needs to get done. So the first iteration, Real Vision members will get it relatively soon, but we're looking at lots of things with AI, like how can we train an AI on my knowledge base and the knowledge base of the people in the Real Vision network that is proprietary information that doesn't exist elsewhere. You know, we've got 7,000 hours of transcripts from hour-long interviews with everybody from Stan Druckenmiller to, you know, we've got a ton of stuff. So what can we do to add, to augment people's lives, to augment their knowledge? So we're doing a lot around that, a lot around what can we do with content? How can we personalize content? So Ran gets a different news show than I do.
That's amazing. I mean, that is amazing.
Also insights, helping you digest what's in a piece of content. Because right now, I don't know if you've done this, stick a video from YouTube straight into ChatGPT, the link.
Okay.
And say, give me a summary.
Yeah, we've done that.
And it summarizes
the
bloody video.
Yeah, we do that a lot. We do that a lot because sometimes in the show we get breaking news and we don't get time to summarize the breaking news and we just put it in there. You can actually do it with Powell's Fed meeting. And the outcome of the Powell Fed meeting is unbelievable from ChatGPT. Does it scare you or do you see it as an opportunity? Like, I mean, on the one hand...
Both.
Both. Yeah, both.
I mean, Ran, don't forget, somebody can take all of your videos, create a AI Ran, and start their own channel, and there's pretty much fuck all you can do about it.
Well, I'm more worried about somebody taking my voice, as you've just seen, because my bank works on voice recognition. When I talk to my bank, it works on voice recognition. That's how they verify me. If you can get the AI to talk Spanish, you can get the AI to talk to my banker. I mean, that part petrifies me.
Well, also just think of reputationally, right? You've got a lot of following. Somebody creates a fake Ran and pumps some token, and there's so little you can do about that. I mean, people haven't got the heads and complexity of what this means. You know, you're boasting how fast you can do a Spanish version of Ran, and I'm thinking, well, I can just get Ran to pump tokens for me, and he's never going to know.
If you're going to do that, will you phone me so I can give you a list of tokens that you can pump, and then we can coordinate. We can coordinate. Yeah. Well, listen.
You know what I mean. It's like that's the danger. Is somebody can take me and make me say anything. Somebody can take Joe Biden and make him say we're going to nuke Russia tomorrow. And we can't prove it.
Yeah, we can. I do want to talk to you about one more thing, and I know we are running out of time, but you keep talking about global liquidity. You sound like you're a bull on global liquidity. You feel that global liquidity is about to explode. I think I've even read tweets where you've said it's going to explode for the next decade or something. What makes you so bullish that we're getting into such a big liquidity cycle? I know Japan is putting money into their system and now starting to suffer an inflation problem. What makes you so bullish on liquidity?
So I've done a lot of work on this over the years, and it all came together in something called the Everything Code. You hear me allude to it. You hear people talk about it. I've done a few podcasts on some of it. But what I've basically figured out is that I think liquidity in terms of central bank balance sheets is forecastable out to 2 or 3 years. And asset prices, like the NASDAQ, is correlated 97% with our liquidity indices. And therefore, if I can forecast liquidity out 2 years, I can forecast the NASDAQ, Bitcoin, Ethereum out for 2 years. Now, it's still a hypothesis, but it is based around an enormous amount of work about what happened after 2008, I think the big reset that everybody's waiting for happened in 2008. All debts were basically forgiven by saying all interest rates are going to zero. So you don't have no burden to pay your debt. Everybody reset their debts in 2008, and they all reset them into 3 to 5 years. Every government and most corporations. So what you've got is the economy now, every 3.5 years, rolls over as you come through the debt cycle. And every 3.5 years, all of the interest due on the debts gets monetized by the central banks. So they're all monetizing. And I've tested it out and done a load of work. The US, the UK, the EU, Japan, they're all doing the same thing. They're just monetizing the interest payments on their debts, which means they've got a credit card to pay off their credit card interest payments. And that's debasement of currency. So it's not really liquidity I'm talking about. Liquidity is a proxy. It's actually the debasement of currency that's the predominant driver.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, you're using liquidity. You're saying liquidity is automatic because your currencies are just becoming less and less valuable. And so you're just paying more and more debt, taking on more and more debt, basically.
Yep. And it's a mechanized process of which I've pretty much proved it in the Everything Code, that it's happening and come across it different ways, and then proved out that I can probably forecast it into the future because it's so cyclical right now because of this debt cycle of all of the debt being rolled. And therefore I can probably forecast asset prices as well. And they're pretty shocking. I'm not going to give it away, but it's pretty shocking what it gives ETH, Bitcoin,
so
and the NASDAQ.
Where can we get this? Where can we get this? I mean, you say you're not going to give it away, but I mean, you're teasing us. And
no, because I mean, look, part of this is from Global Macro Investor, which is my institutional research efforts. That's where it came from. And that's the culmination of 18 years of work, but that's tens of thousands of dollars to get a subscription for. At Real Vision, however, the Pro Macro guys, and I think there's an offer coming on Pro Macro, are getting the whole thing. Yes, it's delayed after the Global Macro Investor people had it several months ago, but also the first part of the article was free on Real Vision day before yesterday. So anybody, you can arbitrage it, but go to Real Vision. I think it's $1
just go
for
to
a
Real
trial.
Vision. Can we put a link to Real Vision? Is there already a link to Real Vision? Let's put a link to Real Vision below so people know where to go, because people are going to watch this, believe it or not. So we can get them to we can just put a link for everybody to do that.
Yeah, just realvision.com. Take the free trial, or take the trial. I think it's $1. But the point being is, this is, and I'm not trying to exaggerate, it's the most important thing I've ever written. It's a culmination of 19 years of work. It's a hypothesis. I'm not saying the Everything Code is fact, but I feel like I've made a huge breakthrough that nobody else has made. So let's see.
Yeah. Raoul, listen, I know we got to jump on a call actually, because we got some big things to talk about. So first of all, thank you for coming back onto Banter. I actually prefer this format, this one-on-one format. I think it's so cool just to chat to you one-on-one for an hour. Usually we have a banter and there's lots of people, and Dan's usually having problems with his connection and whatever.
Yeah, I prefer this format because you can just meaningfully chat about stuff and catch up properly.
Yeah,
it feels more authentic.
100%. So, Raoul, we will do it again. I'm going to put you in the waiting room while I say cheers to the fam. So thanks for coming on, Raoul. And to you guys, to the fam. So here's the story. Next week, I'm going to kind of here, kind of not here. Why? Because I'm going to be filming Killer Whales in Los Angeles with Anthony Scaramucci, with Mario, and a whole lot with Snoop Dogg and a whole lot of others. I will be doing behind the scenes footage. If you want to see what I'm doing, I will be posting on the channel. I do want to remind you again, guys, if you haven't signed up for NordVPN already, please sign up for a VPN. You need a VPN to protect yourself. This is the best VPN. It costs less than $3 a month, but you also support the channel so we can bring you more big guests and more fun. Also, if you do have a VPN, look at the 𝗙𝗏𝗏𝗏 product, which removes you of all these rogue databases. It deletes all your public information from the public domain. And I think it is a great product to have. Let's quickly just have a look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin is 30,000, so we're still above 30,000. Let's look at the Banter Bubbles, and if you haven't already downloaded the Banter Bubbles app, download the app. join us, help us on our mission to bring you guys amazing products. There's amazing innovations coming here. I see BCH is up. I am long BCH, actually. I am long BCH at $30. Okay, brilliant. I'll see you guys again. I guess I could say when I see you guys again. Until then, trade well, my friend.